Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Prahlada Daine. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Srila Kankana Kalaye. Kankana Kalaye. Ito Nishimo Parato Nishimo. Nishimo Parato Nishimo. Yato Yato Yamitato Nishima. Yato Yamitato Nishima. Bahir Nishimo, Hirare Nishimo, Hir Nishimo, Hirare Nishimo, Narashinhamadim Saranam Prapade, Saranam Prapade, Tavakara Kamala Vare Naka, Adbhuta Shringam. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisare Jai Jagadisare Jai Jagadisare Bhagavan ki, Prahlad Maharaj ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Nita Gaura Premanandi, Harnirbo. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Kudanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Munatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Ya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Sodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Jnanatirmiyandasya Jnanjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutaye Swayam Rupa Kadadmayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishkam Han Vidhamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Haripre Vansha Kalpa Tarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before I begin speaking, I'd like to seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas and also those who are listening online. And today we're reading from chapter 4, text 31. Yeah. Okay. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Neyam loko styayagnasya kutonya kuru satama. So it's just one line on today's verse. Neyam loko styagnasya kutonya kuru satama. Neyam loko styagnasya kutonya kuru satama. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? Whatever form of material existence one is invariably ignorant of his real situation. In other words, existence in the material world is due to the multiple reactions to our sinful lives. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life, and sinful life is the cause of one's dragging on in material existence. The human form of life is the only loophole by which one may get out of this entanglement. The Vedas therefore give us a chance for escape by pointing out the paths of religion, economic comfort, regulated sense gratification, and at last, the means to get out of the miserable condition entirely. The path of religion, or the different kinds of sacrifice recommended above, automatically solves our economic problems. By performance of yagya, we can have enough food, enough milk, etc. Even if there is so-called increase of population, when the body is fully supplied, naturally the next stage is to satisfy the senses. The Vedas prescribe, therefore, sacred marriage for regulated sense gratification. Thereby one is gradually elevated to the platform of release from material bondage, and the highest perfection of liberated life is to associate with the Supreme Lord. Perfection is achieved by the performance of yagya, sacrifice, as described above. Now if a person is not inclined to perform yagya according to the Vedas, how can one expect to be a happy life even in this body, and what to speak of another body on another planet? There are different grades of material comforts in different heavenly planets, and in all cases there is immense happiness for persons engaged in different kinds of yagya. But the highest kind of happiness that a man can achieve is to be promoted to the spiritual planets by practice of Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all the problems of material existence. And I'll just read the translation one more time. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? So, no matter what we do in life, there has to be a certain amount of sacrifice, whether it's material or spiritual. So, anything that we want to achieve, whether it be a mundane material example like achieving academic results or studying for a test, that we have to actually it requires sacrifice to achieve this. And then there's the spiritual, in terms of the spiritual reality, that is recommended that in terms of to follow the order of the Supreme Lord, and we have to actually sacrifice, surrender unto Him, and that is the sacrifice, is to perform activities for His satisfaction. So, as is mentioned, there's many different situations, different types of aspects of society that have to be maintained, and these all require sacrifice also, to keep society functioning, such as the economic development. Of course, the paths of religion that will impart knowledge and morality, and hopefully, true spiritual knowledge onto the society. And then there's many different people who are situated in different types of consciousness. So, as it's mentioned, that there's 8,400,000 types, different types of living entities, and 400,000 of these are humans. And in these 400,000 different varieties of humans means that they're have different conditioning, different modes of nature. So each one of these beings and different types of human life, one will be in a certain type of human life, so they can satisfy a particular desire. So in terms of Varnashram Dharma, this is it's a path that is given in the scriptures and by the Supreme Lord, which is how we can actually take it from where we are, and then to actually gradually, step by step, become purified. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 15, Sarvasya chaham riddhi sanivisto mataha smritir ganam apohanam cha vedascha sarviraham eva vedyo vedanta krid veda ved eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So, if anyone was reading this verse, it would give a lot of insight that the Lord is He's situated in everyone's heart, and in terms of us to function, everything that comes from Him is remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So naturally, we have to try, and we think, how can I have a relationship with the Supreme Lord? How can I get access to this and get some guidance? And then He says, by all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So we can see that we have to try, and it's very revealing that we have to try and know the Supreme Lord, and to surrender onto the Supreme Lord, and He is the compiler of Vedanta. So, as is mentioned in the purport, that if one can't live happily on this planet, then what to speak of, in this life or the next life or another planet or any other situation? Because our satisfaction will depend on how well situated we are in our internal circumstances. So the natural tendency of material existence is that one is hankering after different material comforts and desires. So there's different stages of consciousness, and these are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. 5 different stages. So these are 3 of them are to do with the field of activities, which is the body, the material body, and then beyond those are more spiritual, when one becomes detached from the material body, and then finally it's when one is in a relationship with the Supreme. So Srila Prabhupada, he very elaborately describes this in Krishna book, actually, the stages of consciousness. So I'm going to actually read an excerpt from Krishna book, which will very elaborately explain this, and will give us some idea of the situation of this material world and how the living entities are, what stages they are at in terms of their consciousness, and how this manifests so that they function in a particular way in the material world, and it propels them to seek comfort in certain ways. So the personified Vedas continued, "Dear Lord, it is imperative that the living entities be engaged in Krishna consciousness, always rendering devotional service by such prescribed methods as hearing and chanting and executing your orders. If a person is not engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, it is useless for him to exhibit the symptoms of life. Generally, if a person is breathing, he is accepted to be alive, but a person without Krishna consciousness may be compared to a bellows in a blacksmith shop. The big bellows is a bag of skin which exhales and inhales air, and a human being who simply lives within the bag of skin and bones without taking to Krishna consciousness and loving devotional service is no better than the bellows. Similarly, a non-devotee's long duration of life is compared to the long existence of a tree. His voracious eating capacity is compared to the eating of dogs and hogs, and his enjoyment in sex life is compared to that of hogs and goats. The cosmic manifestation has been made possible because of the entrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Mahavishnu within this material world. The total material energy is agitated by the glance of Mahavishnu, and only then does the interaction of the 3 material qualities begin. Therefore, it should be concluded that whatever material facilities we are trying to enjoy are available only due to the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Within the body there are 5 different departments of existence, known as Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and at last Anandamaya. And Manomaya is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita as Jnanamaya. A child or an animal is satisfied only by getting nice food. This stage of consciousness, in which the goal is to eat sumptuously, is called Annamaya. Anna means food. After this, one lives in the consciousness of being alive. If one can continue his life without being attacked or destroyed, one thinks himself happy. This stage is called Pranamaya, or consciousness of one's existence. After this stage, when one is situated on the mental platform, his consciousness is called Manomaya. The materialistic civilization is primarily situated in these three stages: Annamaya, Pranamaya, and Manomaya. The first concern of civilized persons is economic development. The next concern is defense against being annihilated. And the next consciousness is mental speculation, the philosophical approach to the values of life. If by the evolutionary process of philosophical life one happens to reach the platform of intellectual life and understands that he is not this material body but a spiritual soul, he is situated in the Vijnana Maya stage. Then by evolution in spiritual life, he comes to the understanding of the Supreme Lord or the Supreme Soul. When one develops his relationship with him and executes devotional service, that stage of life is called Krishna consciousness, the Anandamaya stage. Anandamaya is the blissful life of knowledge and eternity, as it is said in the Vedanta Sutra, Anandamayo Bhyasat. The Supreme Brahman and the subordinate Brahman, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities, are both joyful by nature. As long as the living entities are situated in the lower four stages of life, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya, they are considered to be in the material condition of life. But as soon as one reaches the stage of Anandamaya, he is a liberated soul. This Anandamaya stage is explained in the Bhagavad Gita as the Brahma Bhuta stage. There it is said that in the Brahma Bhuta stage of life, there is no anxiety and no hankering. This stage begins when one is equally disposed towards all living entities, and it then expands to the stage of Krishna consciousness, in which one always hankers to render service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This hankering for advancement in devotional service is not the same as hankering for sense gratification in material existence. In other words, hankering remains in spiritual life, but it becomes purified. Similarly, when our senses are purified, they are freed from all material stages, namely Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya, and they become situated in the highest stage, Anandamaya, or blissful life in Krishna consciousness. So, Srila Prabhupada, after this, he goes on to explain oneness does not mean merging into the Supreme Brahman existence, but I'll leave that for now. But in terms of these different aspects and hankering for material existence, Krishna mentions that he gives an analogy of himself, that he is in chapter 11, he shows Arjuna his universal form. And then Arjuna asks Krishna the question, who are you? And then Krishna says, I am Kala Rupa, time, and the destroyer of everything, and I'm here to destroy everything. So it's very nice to understand that on both sides, in the Battle of Kurukshetra, there were two sides on the battlefield, but within these two sides, there were both demonic and divine, or more devotional tendencies, asuras and suras. So Krishna explains that he gives two analogies, that one is like the river which is going into the mouth, into the ocean, is like the is like the living entities who are going into the mouth of fire also, and they'll be destroyed. And then he gives the example of a moth who is also going into the fire, a moth who's just simply going into the fire, and they both end in those different ways. So this moth it describes as going into the mouth of fire, and this is both the demonic and non-demonic, who are different pathways. So the more harmonious one, which is natural, is those who are like the river and are in harmony as they just go into the ocean, which is how they meet their end in devotional service. And then those who are demonic, who are attracted to the glaring effulgence of material existence. So they're, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned before in one of his lectures, that they're attracted by the beauty of the fire. So this is like the living entities and the material creation and the forces of the material modes of nature and Maya actually. So naturally time will bring everything to its conclusion, to its end. But it's either going to be like the moth into the fire, or like the river into the ocean. So we have to see that Krishna is time and try and honor time properly. So here's a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, Text 4. And it speaks about how we can actually, in terms of society, and how all the needs of society can be met. So naturally that there is sacrifices, but what is the way that we can actually see this manifest in how it's meant to be? So Kaman varvarsa parjanya sarva kama duga mahi shishukcha sma vrajan gava praya sodhavastir muda. During the reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira, the clouds showered all the water that people needed, and the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. The basic principle of economic development is centered on land and cows. The necessities of human society are food grains, fruits, milk, minerals, clothing, wood, etc. One requires all these items to fulfill the material needs of the body. Certainly one does not require flesh and fish, or iron tools and machinery. During the regime of Maharaj Yudhisthira, all over the world, there were regulated rainfalls. Rainfalls are not in the control of the human being. The heavenly king Indradev is the controller of rains, and he is the servant of the Lord. When the Lord is obeyed by the king and the people under the king's administration, there are regulated rains from the horizon, and these rains are the causes of all varieties of production on the land. Not only do regulated rains help ample production of grains and fruits, but when they combine with astronomical influences, there is ample production of valuable stones and pearls. Grains and vegetables can sumptuously feed a man and animals, and the fatty cow delivers enough milk to supply a man sumptuously with vigor and vitality. If there is enough milk, enough grains, enough fruit, enough cotton, enough silk, and enough jewels, why then do the people need cinemas, houses of prostitution, slaughterhouses, etc.? What is the need of an artificial, luxurious life of cinema, cars, radio, flesh, and hotels? As this civilization Has this civilization produced anything but quarreling individually and nationally? Has this civilization enhanced the cause of equality and fraternity by sending thousands of men into a hellish factory and the war fields at the whims of a particular man? It is said that the cows used to moisten the pasturing land with milk because their milk bags were fatty and the animals were joyful. Do they not require, therefore, proper protection for a joyful life by being fed with a sufficient quantity of grass in the field? Why should men kill cows for their selfish purposes? Why should man not be satisfied with grains, fruits, and milk, which combined together can produce hundreds and thousands of palatable dishes? Why are there slaughterhouses all over the world to kill innocent animals? Maharaj Parikshit, grandson of Maharaj Yudhishthir, while touring his vast kingdom, saw a black man attempting to kill a cow. The king at once arrested the butcher and chastised him sufficiently. Should not a king or executive head protect the lives of the poor animals who are unable to defend themselves? Is this humanity? Are not the animals of a country citizens also? Why are they allowed to be butchered in organized slaughterhouses? Are these the signs of equality, fraternity, and non-violence? Therefore, in contrast with the modern, advanced, civilized form of government, an autocracy like Maharaj Yudhishthir's is by far superior to a so-called democracy in which animals are killed, and a man less than an animal is allowed to cast votes for another less than animal man. We are all creatures of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said that the Lord himself is the seed-giving father, and material nature is the mother of all living beings in all shapes. Thus mother material nature has enough foodstuff both for animals and for men, by the grace of the Father Almighty, Sri Krishna. The human being is the elder brother of all other living beings. He is endowed with intelligence more powerful than animals for realizing the course of nature and the indications of the Almighty Father. Human civilizations should depend on the production of material nature without artificially attempting economic development to turn the world into a chaos of artificial greed and power only for the purpose of artificial luxuries and sense gratification. This is but the life of dogs and hogs. So it gives a very clear explanation of what our sacrifice, how it should be, and how it can manifest into a proper functioning society, which is actually sufficient with all in abundance, actually with more than we ample in terms of having more than we even need, actually. And so we have to actually perform sacrifice, not to just to pursue material endeavors, not to be take shelter of to foster the mode of ignorance and passion by just trying to make things easy through speculation, but we have to actually seek the scripture, what's said in the scriptures, and then see how we can actually, through a spiritual viewpoint, work in harmony with Mother Earth and nature, and then that sacrifice will be actually rewarding, and it will give us satisfaction. So I wonder if there's, I'd like to conclude here and ask if there's any questions. Okay. Yeah. I can get you, there's a microphone. I can get you a microphone. If there's some online, maybe it's nice to have a microphone if it's okay. I can repeat what you say anyway. Yeah. but you might have to turn the volume on the cordless. I can hear you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for nice class.
Thank you for
And just a small question about sacrifice. In Shri Upanishad, the first mantra says that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord.
Yes.
And once we realize that actually all that we have was given to us, so at that point, how do we understand? I mean, in my understanding, it's like, what is there to sacrifice if everything belongs to the Lord? Or is it just our attitude that we should change, or?
Yes. Well, I think you mean in terms of that everything belongs to the Lord, that we have to. Your question is, you're curious about if we have to change, if it's our approach that needs to change, or how do we?
Yeah, that's the sacrifice. It's about attitude, or.
Yes, because the verse that I mentioned at the start about how the Lord is in everyone's heart, and from the Lord become remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So naturally, if one isn't actually following the Vedas and situated in a relationship with the Lord, whereby they become purified, and then there's always going to be more quarrel and more quarrel and hypocrisy, because there's the different modes of material nature, and naturally, in this material world, our basic two mental or psychological processes are to be the controllers and the enjoyers of everything. So naturally we just want to, there's this verse that mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is his internal energy is the superior energy, and then his external energy, which is the material world, which belongs to Krishna, is his external energy. And then he says superior to this is the marginal energy, which consists of the living entities, which is us. And so we have to see everything as the property of the Lord. And as I mentioned in the purport I read, yes, that the living entities are like seen as the older brother of the other living entities, that they have a special role where they have to be responsible and actually nurture and care for the environment. So if one is seeking to one's primary objective is sense gratification, then this will naturally have so much implications for every aspect of life, because it's not harmonious. So it'll be an imbalance. Things won't be, definitely, as we can see now, in terms of like the slaughterhouses and all this, that is not, we wouldn't see so much cows running and being joyful with moistening dirt with their milk. So yes, and we don't see much sacrifice, and we can clearly see how just practically right now, so many things which are not right in terms of the environment and the weather, and everything is definitely not functioning smoothly. It's well known that things aren't so functioning properly due to the influence of our own greed. Yeah, because there's this saying that says in the world there's enough for what I don't know how to say it exactly, but there's enough for what to satisfy every man's greed, but everything in the world is still not enough to satisfy one person's greed. So to be harmonious, we have to follow what's recommended in the scriptures, and through, like as is mentioned, an autocracy like Mara Yudhisthira, where a society can be developed, and these things can be implemented, whereby in like his kingdom he would punish individuals. He would take it upon himself to have justice for these offences which are incurred to all living entities. So everything is obviously there's going to be miscreants in every society, but at least the standards are there which will cause harm for a more harmonious society. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, and all the assembled devotees ki.